Let's head to Welwyn Garden City for our next question. And Pat Pottinger. Hello, Pat.
Hi, hello, Chris.
Fire away.
We're told that the coronavirus originated in a wild animal market in Wuhan, China, where various animals are kept and killed in appalling conditions. As these markets are also held in other Far Eastern countries, is it not possible that a similar outbreak with perhaps a different but no less dangerous virus could happen again?
Welcome to the video, guys. As you just heard there, we're going to be taking a look at something that occurred on BBC's Any Questions the other day. Because while it seems most media have tried to deny this, or even call it racist to say where this whole situation started, there are some, it seems, who are actually starting to call it out, including BBC host Chris Mason, who, as reported in the Express here, and from what we'll see in a clip here, scolds a Labour MP for denying that Winnie the Pooh flu is actually a Chinese virus, which, let's be honest, isn't even up for debate anymore, no matter how hard certain media personalities, and of course the Labour Party, try to claim otherwise. It says here, the BBC's Chris Mason took a Labour representative to task during Friday's Any Questions programme, after she denied suggestions that the Winnie the Pooh flu was a Chinese virus, prompting Mason to lash out. Now, that's a bit disingenuous. He didn't lash out, he just quickly corrected her, but it didn't stop her from trying to deflect and instead claim that everyone's being racist towards Chinese people because of this situation. When, from my experience of talking to people and elsewhere, not only on YouTube but on many other social media platforms and in just general life, it's not actually the Chinese people who are being blamed for this situation. It's the Chinese government, and obviously rightly so. The BBC's Chris Mason pointed out that it was simply a fact the Winnie the Pooh flu was a Chinese virus after a Labour official refuted this description. Lara McNeil, a youth representative for Labour, said it was not the case. The pandemic was a Chinese virus, prompting Mason to intervene. He told the Labour official, factually, this is a Chinese virus, adding, China is where it came from, which, unless you're a member of the Labour Party, is obviously not up for debate. The on-air spat follows controversy in the US, where President Donald Trump has received backlash for referring to the Winnie the Pooh flu as the Chinese virus, which, no, he didn't really receive backlash for it. Let's be honest, the media who this apparent backlash came from was always against him anyway. They don't ever report anything nice about the president, so why would we expect anything different now? The guy could literally cure cancer, and he would still be considered the devil. In response, China's foreign ministry hit back at US president, before calling on him to stop this despicable practice. Well, maybe you should stop the despicable practice of covering things up. During Friday evening's panel discussion on BBC Any Questions, Miss McNeil tried to correct the host, Chris Mason, on his labelling of the pandemic. And you know what? Rather than reading through any more of that, let's take a look at a couple of clips from the Any Questions show. First, we will hear from a doctor who, while does blame China for rightly where it came from, is being very diplomatic in his wording. And then, of course, we will listen to Lara McNeil outright defending China's government by trying to deflect it off and instead making out like people in the UK are being racist to Chinese people.
Thank you for that question, Pat. Dr. Tom Wingfield.
Hi, thanks for that question, Pat. So, yes, so the virus, the coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, did originate in a wet market in Wuhan, and it's obvious that there are issues around legislation, rules and regulations regarding animal-human interface and how animals are kept in markets. I don't think that is just in that area of the world. I think it pertains to many different areas of the world. And I think that it's important that we address that and also realise that actually with issues including climate change, we may have more chance of having issues with virus transmission from animals as that progresses. So I think it's important that we should monitor those as carefully as we can.
Do we need to get rid of wet markets, Doctor?
So I think that there is room for better regulation and legislation of such markets, and I obviously wouldn't ever want any animals kept in conditions that are poor. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement in those areas.
Now, obviously, being on the BBC, he had to bring climate change into it, like that's going to make a pandemic more likely. I'm sorry, I really don't see how that's possible, but it's not really relevant to this video. You heard, he actually blames China for where this come from, because that is right. But, like I said before we heard the clip, he is clearly beating around the bush, trying to be as diplomatic as possible, because he doesn't want to piss anyone off. The snivelling shitweasel we're about to hear from the Labour Party, though, is not being so diplomatic, and instead is essentially just defending China against the people of this country, who, in true Labour fashion, is trying to claim are racist.
Come back to you in a second. Laura McNeil.
Yeah, I think it's not just that area of the world. As Tom said, I think there has been some actually quite appalling spikes in hate crimes towards Chinese and East Asian people, which is very worrying. So I do think we have to be careful about saying, this is a Chinese virus and things like that. That's not the case. So I think that's an important point.
Well, hang on a minute.
To
Isn't
make.
it just factually a Chinese virus? I mean, that's where it came from.
There has been a lot of people having Chinese and East Asian people receiving racist abuse as a result of this in the UK and across the world. And I think it's an important point to make. And people suggesting that certain sanctions should be put on China because of this. So I think it's an important point to make. But I think, as Tom said, pandemics and in things like antibiotic resistance are something that the NHS and the World Health Organization needs to be prepared for. I don't think that we should run a health system that's efficiency savings after efficiency savings in inverted commas and is never ready for anything like this. I think we do have to have that in mind. And I think there's been reports in the past which arguably this government has ignored, and that a pandemic is possible. And I don't think our health system was prepared for this.
So you can tell almost instantly she's not going to bother actually answering the question, and instead will deflect it off to make out like people over here are being hateful to the Chinese communities that live in this country. Now, I've not heard or seen of anyone who has said anything even these leftist snowflakes could consider remotely hateful to the Chinese people. The Chinese government, on the other hand, is a different story, and, like any government, are fair play for anyone to rip into. And actually, considering it's the Chinese government and the way that they are to their own people as well as everybody else, I would say it's definitely free rein on them. But in what seems to be a hallmark of the Labour Party in this day and age, they defend every other nation but their own. And in this case, like most I suppose, it's not even about anything that's actually happening. People are taking the piss out of the Chinese government because they've been covering this situation up, along with likely how many were infected and how many are dead, with of course the help of the WHO. Or should we call them now the CHO, because like I said yesterday, they're essentially the Chinese Health Organisation. And it seems the Labour Party are the propaganda arm in the United Kingdom, there to defend the Chinese government's line at all costs, as you heard in that clip. I do have to give props, obviously, to the BBC host for pointing out that it is factually a Chinese virus, as we heard in the article at the beginning of this video. Because I would say a week or two ago, that would not have been said by any BBC host. His masters must have allowed him to actually state facts. But even after having that pointed out yet again, she still ignores it completely and instead goes back to her old line that was, of course, Chinese and East Asian people are now being targeted because of this virus, or apparently the God Emperor Donald Trump saying it is the Chinese virus, which just proves to me that this woman is suffering from severe Trump derangement syndrome and therefore cannot answer the question truthfully because of course she would be proving Trump right. Because I have to say it doesn't look good completely ignoring direct questions like these to instead call the British public racist, though it's something we have got used to from the Labour Party. But I think she really tops it off when she seems to have a problem with putting sanctions on China for causing this shit show to occur. What world is she actually living in? I mean, if the UK had caused this situation and allowed something to spread around the world, Labour would be the first one saying we have to pay the world compensation. But when it's on the other foot, no, we have to let them get away with it. It's fine that they've crashed the world's economy and caused millions of people to be locked in their homes, essentially. That's all fine, apparently, if you're this Labour Party spunk trumpet. But of course, in true Labour Party fashion, she has to take this opportunity to get some political point scoring in, claiming this imagined underfunding of the NHS, when in fact it's just mismanagement of NHS funds and the system in general. Because you have to take a look at healthcare systems around the world, even ones that were considered much better than ours. They are in a shit show right now. So, nice try on the political point scoring there, love, but it's not gonna fly with anyone with half a brain cell, which is obviously something you lack. This Labour Party bint shouldn't really surprise anyone. It is literally common practice for them, and in the last few years, been their mantra. Blame everything on the British people, rather than the slimy toads that have actually caused whatever problem it is. But the most shocking thing was that the BBC host actually pointed out the facts that obviously this is a virus that originated in China and was covered up by Winnie the Pooh. Now before I go, I've started doing live streams and uploading gaming content on my second channel. If you would like to come and join me for a live stream to chat in real time, have an interest in gaming related content on YouTube, or just want to follow me over there because you are a legend, the link will be down in the video description below and as a pinned comment. I hope to see you all there. Now as always, before I go, I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.